Let's call the meeting to order. Pursuant to Governor Baker's July 14, 2022 revised order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GL Chapter 38, Section 18, meetings of the Berkshire Hills Regional School District School Committee will be conducted both in person and remote until further notice. In-person attendance is limited to Berkshire Hills Regional School District School Committee members, superintendent, and district and school administrators. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted at this time. However, the meeting may be accessed remotely. Agenda items are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed. Items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. This meeting is being recorded by CTSB and school committee recorders and other members of the public. Once transcribed and approved, minutes will be made public and posted to our website. So let's start with a roll call. Dan Hutchinson. I don't see her. Jason St. Peter.
Here.
Sean Stephen.
It's Diane's there.
Okay. Bonnie Bonravoni.
Here.
Molly Thomas.
Here.
Bill Fields. Here. Diane Singer.
Here.
Corey Sprague.
Here.
Rich Tahoney.
Here.
And Steve Bannon here. So let's go right on to the minutes of August 18th, 2022. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So I have a motion by Bill, a second by Rich. Any discussion, changes? Hearing none, roll call vote. Jason?
Aye.
Bonnie?
Aye.
Molly?
Aye.
Bill?
Yep.
Diane?
Yes.
Corey?
I was not here, so.
Corey's abstaining. Rich Tahoney?
Yes.
And I. So it's unanimous with one abstention. So we're right into the superintendent.
Okay, so what I'd like to do is start with good news at the buildings. Obviously, this is the first week of school, and I think we're really, first week of school for kids, and I think we're really psyched about it. So Katie, why don't you go, and then Ben, and then Kristen.
Yeah, I mean, like Peter said, we're day 4 and we're still standing. But I did want to update a little bit on the information we're gathering to try to have some win-wins out of trying to rearrange traffic. We're trying to set up some morning activities and maybe some staggered arrivals and some after-school activities to break down into the cars. I will let you know the feedback I'm getting from those parents who are contacting me is that they really value the walk. So I'm trying to wrap my head around some flexibility in terms of how we can make that work. So that's our biggest sort of push lately.
For the record, you're the fifth principal who's trying to solve this. We encourage the effort.
You're not implying that's why the other 4 left.
No. I mean, I got a lot of smart people that can really wrap their heads around it. Administration, school committee, principals, it's not an easy enough.
It's the Rubik's scale. But we almost got the high school one, right?
Yeah. 50 years.
Yeah, took a while. All right, anything else, David?
That's
You're
it.
good, okay, Ben.
Lost the high school.
There you go, Christy.
Fifth grade is going great. It's always wonderful to have the new students in. Fifth grade team is doing a wonderful job, just working with the kids and making sure that they know what it's like to be a middle schooler. Their energy is just so amazing. I get out there. Recess was then. 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade are all doing community activities this week as much as they're jumping into content. So that's really good. Our crew program is really a very big core to help us with that. So making connections between adults and kids and then between kids and kind of celebrating community and setting some values for the kids is really a lot of fun. And we just jump right into content. We're on every single classroom, just doing work and having fun and enjoying middle school, which is really good. And some really nice things going on. We have 3 new performance music teachers who have done a really nice job bringing everybody into performance music. that just feels really good. And we are jumping into proficiencies with our professional learning, and that's also really just wonderful. So things are really fantastic.
And Christy?
Yeah, so we also had a pretty wonderful start at the high school. It's felt really normal, which is a pleasure to be able to say after the past couple of years. It's been remarkable having Keith Wright join us in his new role and have that added support in the building. So I just want to thank him for everything he's done. Katie did bring up traffic, so the one thing we are still trying to hammer home at the high school is that drop off in the morning is at our elementary bus parking lot. I think that we're making some headway there, but what's been exciting on the traffic front is our after school, I think is the smoothest it's ever been with our new system that we have going, so that's exciting. We ended our summer coming into the year with our final PD with Josh Thomas's and our 9th and 10th grade team, and that was the day before the teachers came in for the first 2 days of school. They were doing some amazing work sharing assessments. The 9th and 10th grade core teachers that they plan to pilot this fall, and they were working on conversations about aligned rubrics and aligning rubrics to proficiencies and how to then look at student work using those rubrics to align expectations of like, what does it actually mean to be proficient in a particular skill? And those are conversations that will be going on all year, and Josh will continue to support us. And then I just have one exciting announcement that we do have 3 students to recognize. Aria Grossman, Evie Grossman, and Tyler Spray all earned the National Girl in a Small Town Award for outstanding performance on PSAT and AP exams from the College Board. So I just want to congratulate them.
And that's really neat. That's a relatively new award. The College Board changed how they're doing awards, and we're trying to figure out what it fully means, but a number of colleges use that as the basis for merit aid, including Northeastern and Boston University, and Berea College in Kentucky, which is a very special place, as well as Texas A&M and Alabama, both those. So we'll get more information on that and share. Is that it, Christy?
Yes.
Okay, so I had 2 really extraordinary pieces of news to share. And all of this is sort of efforts of dozens of people. The first one is we applied for additional support from the 21st Century Community Learning Grant. That's the program. It's a federal grant that supports our programs at the elementary, middle, and high school. Project Connection is beginning its 11th year at Muddy Brook and Du Bois. And those 2 sites are 2 out of 17 that were named demonstration sites this year. And the program at the high school was labeled a promising site. So we asked for funding as a very competitive process, and we were awarded $340,880 per year for the next 3 years for a grand total of $1,022,640. This represents 6.4% of total funding awarded statewide, and the only district that got more support than us were the Lowell Public Schools, which had 5 sites awarded. During the year, Project Connection serves 225 unique students in grades K to 12, with an average sort of dosage or time on learning of 95 hours per student during the school year. 17% of these students are English language learners, 16% are in IEPs, and 62% are from economically disadvantaged households. From a staffing perspective, we employed 120 individuals during the school year and summer, including district staff, family members, and students. and 17 high school students who took part in the Students in Training, Educational Internship and Mentoring Program. And that program included 40 hours of instruction in social emotional learning, mentoring, communication, and curriculum planning. 12 of those 17 students served as group leaders during the program. And 6 of the older students were paired with veteran teacher mentors to deliver between 10 and 15 hours of programming during the 5-week summer program. So huge deal. Tom Kelly did a lot on this, as did many of the people in the district. Do we want to do both of them together? Or?
We'll do each one.
Okay.
They deserve to be separate.
Okay.
So let's have a motion. We have to accept these grants. So let's make a motion to accept these.
Motion to accept the grant.
Seconded. Any discussion other than the fact that this is tremendous news for the district?
Awesome.
Roll call vote. Ann,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Bonnie,
Aye.
Molly,
Aye.
Bill,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Corey,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
and I. It's unanimous.
Okay, thank you. So that's the first bit of good news. The second bit of good news is equally great. We submitted an application to the Bar Foundation, which is also a very competitive one. This isn't a federal grant, it's a private foundation, and we were invited to apply, and they have awarded the high school a grant of $500,000 to be spent over the next 2 years, $300,000 this year and $200,000 next year. And this is specifically around our continued work in 9th and 10th grade. And they are supporting us on rethinking our schedule, rethinking leveling up curriculum, honors distinction, all of that. Our work around advisory, and our work around proficiencies and performance indicators. So we're really excited about this grant. This is again a really big deal. And then one of the expectations of fundees of BAR is that they work in collaboration with other fundees. So they have a program called the Catalyze New Models strategy. So we will host people at Monument. We will visit other schools. BAR will provide additional support for that. Some additional opportunities around observations and feedback and reviewing data. So again, this is a huge deal. It's very exciting. We're really psyched about it, and a really nice team working on this. Obviously, Christy and folks at the high school. Mary Nash has been working as our contracted project manager. A lot of support from Josh Thomas's and Dan Liebert and other folks. Am I missing anybody? Staff. Oh, Steph Boutin, yeah. So sorry, I first thought you were saying staff, and then I started rattling off names. Lots of staff help too, but Steph Boutin works at the like Next Generation Learning Challenges group, and she was our coach through this. And we did a year with Mass Ideas, a year with BAR, and now 2 more years with BAR. So it's very exciting. And they have a process where you share a draft and then you get feedback on the draft. And their feedback was, this is wonderful. You guys are really on track, which is sort of unheard of. So I'm really excited about this one. And if somebody would like to make a motion to accept this, that would be great as well.
Motion to accept.
Second.
So a motion to accept by Rich, Corey seconded. Any discussion? It's again, another terrific grant. Ann,
Yes.
Jason,
Aye.
Bonnie,
Aye.
Molly,
Aye.
Bill? Yes. Diane?
Yes.
Lori?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
And I, it's unanimous.
Great, well, thank you on those. So that's enough good news on my end. Julian, I sort of bounced around. Is there other stuff you wanted to share?
No, I mean, I was just gonna defer my time to Ms. Farina. There were a few things. I mean, Zoe and I talked about, we're super excited to like bring some new students on because we're seniors now. And so our time is limited in the building, but also we have a very stressful fall ahead of us. So we're excited to sort of welcome new people and create something that lasts. There are just a few things. I mean, just students are finding new challenges and stuff like that. A ton of new teachers and first years, so everyone's sort of finding their way. It was a very hot week in the building, into the MSBA, but everyone made it through. And it was almost like a community builder because everyone had a common enemy of the heat. Yeah, Ms. Farina covered it well. We're new year, fresh start. Everyone's super excited.
Great, no, really good. All right, so tonight is the night of approving a half dozen things. So let me go through them one at a time. The first one is a request to approve additional assistant coaches to be paid for by the booster clubs. And as articulated in our co-curricular guidelines, when a booster club wants to do this, they request that the school committee approve it.
Do you have any discussion?
I have a proposed amendment, well, there's not a motion, but I have a proposed amendment.
Yeah, go right ahead.
As proposed, well, I could want to just make the motion.
Yeah.
I'm make a motion that we approve the additional soccer coach for the boys soccer team to be funded by the Booster Club and approve an additional coach for the girls soccer team to be funded by the district.
Let me get a second, and I'll have a question for Rich. Do I have a second?
I'll second it for purposes of discussion.
We did not get any backup material. It used to be we would get a lot of backup material as well as Christie's letter of recommendation. So I'm kind of blind in this. Rich, you want to explain your?
Yeah, absolutely. I understand that the determination is that each soccer team needs two coaches. That's what we've always approved. That's what we funded. I totally agree with that. And that a third coach was funded for whatever soccer or any other program by the Booster Club because it was extra, not a necessity, which has always been what has articulated me as the line between what a Booster Club pays for and what the district pays for. They pay for the extras, we pay for the necessities. And I know from the personnel report that for the first time, maybe in history, but certainly in recent memory, the administration has chosen to appoint an all-male staff for the girls soccer team. And I view a female coach for a female-only sport to be a necessity, not a luxury. It has always been, virtually always been that way. It is, I think, an important component of what I believe our goals should be for our sports teams. I'm trying to see if I can. And I don't think having female coaches is aspirational. I think it's a necessity. And frankly, it's the benefit that we will receive from it far outweigh the cost of the cost that the district will incur. I believe, frankly, we don't even have to do a transfer. I think this will be able to be funded out of the existing line item. Let me see if I can. Resource I rely on is a lot of the research that's been done by the Women's Sports Foundation, which in 2019 did a really comprehensive study on the role basically of girls' high school sports in general, focusing in on the importance of, first of all, noting the shortage of women's coaches nationally, and the shortage of opportunities for women to coach nationally, but the importance of it. There's any number of statistics in their study. In fact, I'll put it up in the chat when I can, and it's a long tome. I encourage everyone to read it. But one of the statistics that really struck me is that they just surveyed thousands of girls nationwide. And if girls who really identify as really like their coach a lot, were more likely to have a female coach. It was 82% to 73%. So you have a 10% chance, a girl has a more than a 10% chance of connecting with their coach if it's a female. I'm choosing to focus my petition tonight on the positive. I just think the positive effects by having a woman, at least part of the coaching team, is so dramatic that I put it in the necessity bucket. I think there's tremendous risk in having all male coaching staff for female teams. That's not what's motivating me here, but I think it's worth noting. So it's just I totally support the 3 coaches for both teams. If there's compelling reasons why the boys team, 3rd coach should be funded by the district, I'd vote in favor of that too, but it's so crystal clear to me that this is a necessity, and I think it's our obligation to pay for it.
Discussion.
Yeah.
I have a lot of questions. So we're talking about hiring one additional coach who will coach both boys and girls?
No.
No, we're hiring 2 coaches, a 3rd for the boys varsity and a 3rd for the girls varsity.
Well,
But I'm just asking that the district at least pay for the 3rd girls varsity coach.
because we don't have any females on the girls' staff?
If I'm wrong, I can be corrected, but my understanding is that from reviewing the PERS report, that it is an all-male staff.
So
If I'm wrong, I will withdraw my motion.
it says Lindsay Siegel is the girls' soccer assistant. Oh, Lindsay is male?
I think that there is a female coach on the girls' team right now. That's assisting Miguel.
Lindsay Siegel?
No,
No, he's.
someone that came in for Sarah.
I don't have anybody on the team, so I don't know.
Can you
I do.
speak to that?
No. I can't.
Because Sarah Mead was there last year. She's off, and I do feel like they put someone else in her place.
Give me a sec.
I think that's the person I'm looking to find.
Well, it's no one that's funded though, because the only 2 funded ones are the head coach.
Right,
Yes.
Correct.
and that's what's in the personnel
And the
report.
assistant, so there's
Right.
2 funded
Miguel
coaches both.
And Liz are 2
Yes.
that are currently appointed, funded, district-funded positions.
And if another, the booster club, we don't know who the booster clubs are gonna hire,
The
right?
Booster Club doesn't hire, they pay, we hire.
Okay,
But they've identified.
Well, they shouldn't, we should be the ones doing it. And by seeing the athletic director not even here tonight, that worries me a lot.
So I have as the assistant coach, Marina Anderson Cromwell. On my list is Marina, a woman.
Yes.
It's very confusing.
Rich, is the reason for your motion, do you get the sense that that the girls booster team is not in a position to fund this position and they will go without it if the district does not fund it?
I have no knowledge of that. Although I will say on a totally separate note, and I've raised this before, is the booster clubs across the border are in tough shape because they lost 2 years of fundraising during COVID. So that's, if anything, a lot of booster club things we can't pay for, we can't pay for coaches. If I do, that's another reason, a good reason to do it. That would be applicable to the boys team as well.
So
what you're saying-
my question is, and Christy, maybe you could speak to this. I see 3 people as coaches on the girls soccer team, Miguel, Marina, and Lindsay.
Correct. Those are the 3 appointees.
Well, there shouldn't be a 3rd appointee because we don't. know
Because
what
you've
to
not
pay for.
approved it.
We've not approved it.
Right.
And on the personnel report, which we have tonight, Miguel and Lindsay are on there, no one else.
So Marina is
It's the one we're voting.
One that will.
Potential 3rd.
Apparently.
Yeah. So Rich, does your logic still hold in this?
If somebody tells me who the appointed and district funded head coach is and who the district appointed and funded assistant coach is, then I'll know if my logic holds. So my theory is premised on that the two district funded coaches are male and that the 3rd coach is going to be female.
Okay.
Can we do that? Or is that a discrimination?
No, I looked into it. It's not.
It seems like if the booster clubs have requested this, that they must have the means to do it. And if we pick the girls' team over the boys' team, I don't know if there's a difference in their ability to raise funds. I assume they're similar, although I don't know. But maybe we can invite the booster clubs to come back to us if they feel that they would like the district to jump in here. And it's setting a precedent because this comes up every 7 or 8 years about the soccer teams, and it's great, and I heartily approve of having every kid who goes out for soccer able to play. We've had 3 teams in the past at times, at least on the boys' side, to allow all the boys, the 30 boys who went out to play. I don't know if that's the situation this year, but since the booster clubs have agreed to do this, they also didn't spend as much in the last 3 years, I think. I think we should stay with where we're at and invite the booster clubs to come and ask if they need funds to fund these kinds of positions. I mean, I agree with having as many female coaches for female teams as you possibly can. And I realize, I think cross-country, is that also an issue with cross-country?
In cross-country, there's a male head coach and a female assistant coach.
So just
While
to,
we're at it, under volleyball, both the head coach and the assistant coach look like they're the same person, or
It's because one's the varsity coach and one is the JV coach, and it is in fact the same person, but they practice at one after another. And we had a really tough time recruiting somebody, so one person is doing 2 distinct jobs.
and volleyball is female, right?
It's another one.
And that's another one, and Kyle, I assume, is male.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a separate issue almost that needs to be put on the agenda again to talk with the
Yes,
athletic
true.
director.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, Carl and I both agree that we would like more female coaches coaching female sports. We are getting very few applicants for these positions at all. So.
so let me
there's
just
two
clarify.
issues.
Rich doesn't need my help, but let me clarify what Rich said. Rich isn't doubting the fact whether there's money available, isn't saying that you could or couldn't get female coaches. There's clearly a third person who's a female who's willing to be the third coach. What he's saying, it's an obligation of the district to have a female whenever possible on a female-only team. That's what I heard from Rich. It's not about money. It's not about, doing your best. I'm sure you did. But, as a district and having coached girls sports for years, Rich is correct.
But I thought,
But it is an obligation if Rich is asking us to vote on supporting it financially as a district, as opposed to a booster.
That's my argument is that the reason the third coach is typically been not funded by the district is it's superfluous, it's a luxury, you know what I mean? And I view that having female coaches is important, and whenever we can do it, we can do it. Whatever we need to do to get that done, we need to get that done. If that means training people better, if that means paying them additionally, if that means funding them differently, whatever, if it means taking recruiting resources, we have to make it a priority. And so it's not, in that case, it's not a luxury. I could be talked into the funding a third soccer coach too, because there's so many boys on the program, and I think.
And just because I was here when those guidelines were written, and was part of that, that was the reason that we were not funding the third coach, is that it is a luxury. And your argument is in this case, it's not a luxury.
Yes, yeah.
Did this female coach apply for either of the other positions that are paid?
Not sure we can say that because it's personnel.
and what happens if no females apply, then we can't have a third coach? I mean.
No, then the booster club can pay for it if they want it.
No, but I mean, in this case, there is a third coach who's female. But if we say we're gonna, I don't know, something happens and so now funding gets withdrawn because now a male, I don't know, it just seems like we're adding many more layers of difficulty. I believe that they've tried really hard to hire females, and they've got a female who wants to do it, and we've got a booster club that wants to pay for it. I agree, it should be a high priority. I don't know how to make it more high priority than it probably already is.
Does anyone else want to
Can I
speak?
say something?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. Having been a veteran of both the Booster Club and multiple teams at Monument, I remember that there was a third coach on the soccer team that was volunteer at the time. So from what I've seen, I've only seen the girls soccer team, but it worked optimally with 3 coaches. And I've never really understood why the Booster Club has to fund a coach for any team. I don't really consider that third coach in soccer, especially, to be unnecessary or even an extra. There's a huge chunk of money that comes from what the Booster Club makes that goes to assistant coaches. And that takes away from everything that you can do for players. There's some extra equipment, there's some extra uniform, there are practice shirts. And I just think that it behooves us to make this program what it could be. The soccer team is a large team, and I don't think for a large field and a large team, there 3 coaches is, I think, just about where we should be and where we have been in the past.
Well, we have been, except it's been funded by the Booster Club, Diane, because it's not budgeted, first of all. And second of all, we did a study and we have our guidelines that clearly say that, what coaches will pay for and what ones won't, at least, at that time, we could re-look at it.
There's more than other teams that also hire third coaches. Boys basketball does, boys football hires and pays for coaches. Unless we're gonna pay for the third coach across the board, I don't think we can do it.
I think, just to be clear, not to be a stickler, no one hires coaches except for this district. So just so everyone's clear, no one gets mistaken that the district hires the coaches, the Booster Club pays for. The Booster Club may have their choice, but their choice isn't always the one that's hired, from what I understand. Rich, go ahead. Bonnie, if you're done.
I think the third coach on football is paid for by the district.
I think it is, but I think because structurally, football, one could argue the merits of every sport and how complicated everything is, but with typically an offensive coach, a defensive coach, and a special teams coach, or an offensive coach and a quarterbacks and receivers coach, we end up at 3. And I think just the pure numbers, so the team's not giant every year, probably justify it.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
If my memory serves me correct, when this was decided, there was a large study about what Monument should have for how many coaches for each sport.
Right.
And that's why we've come up to the extent it was accepted by the school committee at the time. Let's take a vote on this, since there's a motion and a second, so we can.
Well,
Do you want to restate
so
the motion?
your motion, Rich, is it's almost like a statement that you want the district to stand for something, right?
Yes.
You want the district to stand for female coaches are on a par with a male coach, and we want as many females as possible in our coaching ranks. Is that?
I agree. That's exactly what that's exactly
Okay.
the premise.
And that, I like that, but then on the other hand, I like what Ann said, are we adding more layers? And does this mean then that we should get rid of Booster Club funding for a third coach and have the district assume that?
There's a couple of reasons you can't do that tonight. One is we don't have a budget for 10 more coaches or whatever it would be. Second of all, we have a co-curricular guidelines that are very clear that we would have to amend. So what we're doing tonight, do we want to look into that further? We could, but
everything you said is exactly right. And like, I'm a person who goes nuts about mid-year hires that aren't in budget all the time. So like, once again, I'm being the biggest hypocrite of all time.
At least you're aware.
Yeah, I want to, but like, this is before us and there's kids already practicing for soccer. Would you be able to stomach a one-off change for either one or both of the soccer teams this year with the idea that we will over the next year, revisit the co-curricular guidelines to see if it's permanent or not?
so what I was saying was, for us tonight to say we're gonna support all third coaches, we're gonna pay for them. is
No,
just impossible.
I was gonna say either just girls soccer, which is what I proposed. I could very easily go along with the girls soccer and the boys soccer. Everything Diane said about soccer is true. Maybe the guys are a little out of date, and we can revisit that. And a third topic, which I haven't brought up tonight, is, and I can ask Christy this, is cuts are a constant, an annual event on the soccer teams, an annual event on some other teams too. And an excuse justification I've heard is unable to staff large teams at practice. So I want to know if a third coach on either one of these teams may eliminate or lessen the degree that there's cuts. Because I would support that for anybody if we could afford cuts.
Yeah, both teams are approximately the same size, and to my knowledge, no one was cut this year. We have 36 boys and 39 girls who are participating.
Okay.
That's total JV and varsity on both teams.
So to answer your question, Rich, I would support your motion as it was. I was planning to support that because I agree with you that one coach, we can find the money in the budget. It's just if we now try to make a wholesale change, as some people are suggesting, that really goes in the face of the budget, and we really should do some more research. But I also understand why some people are against this and are concerned. So let's try to take a vote here unless you're willing.
Let's take a vote and then we can.
Ann,
No,
Jason,
Yes. Aye.
Bonnie,
No,
Molly,
No.
Bill,
No.
Diane,
Yes.
Corey,
No.
Rich,
Yes.
and yes, and it fails by a 5-4 vote, or 4 to 5.
I make a motion to add additional soccer coaches for both the boys team and the girls team to be funded by the district.
second,
Any discussion?
Can I just ask a clarifying question? Your motion's a little vague. Do you mean that the third position is funded by the district, or are you talking about a fourth or fifth position?
Just, I'll restate the motion.
Okay, sorry.
And I'm gonna read it from the proposal. I move that we approve an additional assistant soccer coach for FY '23, one for boys and an addition and a second one for girls to be funded by the district.
And I already have a second. And I would tell you, I think we're setting a precedent that we shouldn't set.
Right.
Without a lot of research and changing our co-curricular guidelines, but that's just me. I like your rationale for funding one, but I think now if we approve this, my concern is that many other sports, as Diane pointed out, will have equal rationale to come forward. And then Sharon will start to ask us where we're planning to get this money from, since it was not in the budget. And I know some people think that our budget, there's a lot of room, but there's not a lot of room in our budget.
This coaching line item has bad surplus every year since I've been back.
so now I'm totally confused. Are we voting on letting the booster club pay for the third coach?
No, Rich's motion was to have the district pay for the third coach.
For both teams, boys and girls.
Oh,
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Ann.
no,
I gotta write this down. Jason,
Aye.
Bonnie,
no,
Molly,
No.
Bill,
No.
Diane. I'm sorry, Diane.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Corey,
No.
Rich,
Yes.
and I'm a no on that, and it fails by 6-3 vote.
So are we now back to the original?
We have no motion, so if someone would like to make a motion, which is, I think all we have left, well, there's probably other iterations, but all we have left is that we approve this with the Booster Club's funding it.
I make a motion that we approve the request for an additional assistant coach for 22-23 soccer season for both girls and boys soccer, and the booster clubs will find these assistant coaching positions.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
How much is in each of, what have we received from the booster clubs in terms of requests for this? As Steve pointed out, we typically have a written request with it that explains what it is.
They would like to approve an additional coach for each, the boys and girls soccer.
You're saying money wise?
The dollar amount of an assistant coach is, and I'll look it up, it's like $29.93 or something.
$29.75.
Yeah, it's on, should be on the personnel report.
Yeah.
And do each of the booster clubs currently have ready-made funds to do that?
You'd have to ask the booster clubs.
In our co-curricular guidelines, Sharon, who remember, says that they need to pay us before the hiring happens. But I don't know if that actually occurs, but that is part of it.
We do get the money.
I know you should never assume anything, but I assume since they asked for it, they do as, ethics said, they have the money. Why would they ask for something if they don't have the money? And not knowing that we were gonna talk about what you raised earlier. They weren't aware, I think they were following what they have done in the years past.
Everything you said makes complete logic.
Like, that's not.
I don't think that's what
Okay, so we have a motion. and
The
a
checkbook
second.
for the girls' soccer account is sitting on the counter in my living room right now, and I don't know who the treasurer is, and I don't know who's making the representation, so I don't know.
That's another motion.
Yeah.
If that-
Maybe, and Rich alluded to this earlier, this is not maybe germane to what we're, the main point, but maybe we need to look at this whole arrangement of booster clubs and
Yeah.
sports.
So the first thing.
I know that was done years past when booster clubs and the play got involved. And Steve remembers those times. Maybe it's time, as you said, Rich, that this committee, I won't be on it by the time it gets around, but that we.
No, that's slow, Bill.
Well, he's done it in November. He got one week.
Yeah, that we look at this whole connection between the booster clubs and the district.
So
In
what
regards to
I,
sports.
what I would recommend, Bill, since I was there and I helped write this, is that first of all, we have Doreen send out a copy of the co-curricular guidelines to everyone, because I will guarantee a lot of people have not even seen it, because this is not a document that's been spread around. And second of all, I will tell you, when that was written, it was said it's a fluid document. And it hasn't been changed in years, I agree. So the other thing I would recommend is what we do is we get a subcommittee together of school committee members, athletic director, business manager, and look at it and make recommendations to us. Because we're not real good at having to rewrite a document in a meeting with 10 members. So it would,
The other thing is, it can't just be athletics, it was designed to be everything.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was designed that way. So I think we should do that. I think we should look at it and come back to the school committee with recommendations. So we have a vote, we have a motion and a second, and the motion is, we're back to where we started 25 minutes ago, is to hire a third coach for both girls and boys soccer to be paid for by the booster clubs. So roll call. Ann.
Aye.
Jason.
Aye.
Bonnie.
Aye.
Molly.
Aye.
A reluctant aye. Bill.
Yes.
Diane.
Yes.
Corey.
Aye.
Rich,
Yes.
and yes, it passes unanimously with 9 votes. Okay, go ahead.
So the next one is really more of a heads up, and both Christy and I can speak to this. We have a class for healthcare students, Intro to Health Careers, which is a course at Monument. And in that class, they're going to do CPR. They're also going to be trained in how to administer Narcan. And we're sharing this with the school committee just for your awareness, because in some contexts, some people might think that is a provocative thing to do. I think in this day and age, having more people trained in administering Narcan is a sane thing to do. So there's a little memo about it. I just wanted to flag it for you, and Christy or I are happy to respond to questions.
I don't see any.
Okay. So the next one is a little complicated. And Sharon can speak to it in specific detail, it's important, but the Justice Resource Institute provides services for our students that are best met in out-of-district placements. They hired a new accounts receivable specialist, and they didn't, and that person discovered that they didn't bill us correctly. Because it's in a previous fiscal year, we need to come back to you to ask your approval to pay what are now late invoices.
So Sharon, where's the money come from since the year is closed?
This is going to come from this year's reimbursement from circuit breaker. So we will have over 500,000 coming in on that.
And circuit breaker is a year behind anyway, so that's
Exactly.
why that works.
Yeah.
Okay.
Circuit breaker's not revolving now, that ends on June 31st.
It's revolving,
It is revolving.
yes.
So whether we paid it in June or paid it now makes no difference.
Well, it's from
In our balance.
2021, fiscal year
Right,
21.
so it's 2 years, it's not
2 years.
last year, it's 2 years.
But still, it revolves year to year, so.
Right.
The
not
circuit
gonna
breaker
change our-
revolves year to year, right, but the bill is from 2 years ago, which is why we need.
I get that. But if it was a non-revolving fund,
Exactly.
we essentially be losing money, but because it's revolving, we're not. Perfect.
And it has to do with, the state has the smaller amounts, the state sets a rate for all private schools. They underbilled us on one of the students and then didn't bill the end of the year, May and June, for both students.
So it's not, it's our problem, but it's their mistake.
Yeah.
Right. And the service has already been rendered,
Yes,
so we have to, there's
and
not
they will
much choice.
continue enjoying their services,
Right,
so it's important.
Motion to approve.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Ann,
Yes.
Jason,
Aye.
Bonnie,
Aye.
Molly,
Aye.
Bill,
Yes.
Diane.
We might have lost
Yeah,
Diane.
see, it looks like we may have lost.
Yeah, I think we lost.
Okay.
I'll see if I can.
Corey,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
and I, it's unanimous with 8 votes.
Okay, so the next one for potential approval is an unusual clause connected to our contract, which is policy GBEA. And this is when the district wants to hire somebody related to a district administrator or a school committee member. So I did some research on this, and the last time this happened was in 2005, when then school committee member was related to a school secretary who was hired. So it's not typical to hire somebody related to a school committee member or a district administrator, but occasionally it happens, or we'd like it to happen. And then we come to the school committee for permission to do so. In this particular case, this is for the general music position at the middle school. Ben did an exhaustive search, interviewed many people. We thought we had found one candidate and actually spent a lot of time working on trying to get that candidate a visa. So he was employable because he's from another country. And we never brought that to closure. And then we were presented with a candidate who has 12 years of teaching experience, a legitimate certificate as a music teacher, and a strong background in teaching music. And we'd like to move to hire that person. The candidate is married to the assistant principal at that school. So it's a little unusual. The way you handle situations like this is you don't let the assistant principal supervise his or her own spouse, but you have the other administrator in the building supervise the person.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Rich, second by Corey. Any discussion?
I have no problem with that. I was saying, I get what Peter's plight about, explanation of the hiring process and this, but I don't think it should. This is just a check and balance to make sure that there's a proper approvals in place. It's not a prohibition or anything wrong with it from my perspective. It's just a check and a balance.
Yeah.
I think going forward, if the best candidate, even if you have 400 candidates, is the spouse, you should still feel comfortable coming forward and requesting the approval. I don't think it has to be out of necessity. I think it's just check and balance.
And I guess the policy is there for transparency.
Absolutely, yeah, transparency, check and balance.
Yeah.
And I like the idea, it's the best candidate, and
Yeah.
obviously Ben has chosen
Yes.
the better one.
Yeah. So roll call, Ann,
Yes,
Jason,
Aye.
Bonnie,
Aye.
Molly,
Aye.
Bill,
Yes,
Diane, yes, Diane,
Yes. Yes.
Corey,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
and I. It's unanimous.
Okay, I have one more that is a hanging one from last meeting, and I did not repeat it on the agenda, and I think that's okay, or hope that's okay. At the last meeting, we discussed the college post-secondary admissions support position, and I asked that you not vote at it at the last meeting because I wanted to take some time to speak with Christy and the guidance counselors about it. We all did speak together, and there's support there. So if you have questions about that role, I'm happy to respond to it. And I would actually like you to, there's somebody to make a motion to approve that part-time. The job description.
Can you give me the job description title again?
So it's the college post-secondary admissions support role, and this is a half-time position to support students in setting and realizing post-secondary educational goals, to support students in conducting research and making informed choices, and to support students in developing effective written applications. So a lot around writing, connecting with the guidance counselors and the English department who are also working with students. And as some of you have talked to me about this also addresses an equity issue. So some families are paying significant money to support kids around writing in the application process. And this is a way for us to make that accessible to more students. We started as half-time. My hope is over time. It is, as we demonstrate success, that it becomes full-time.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
second motion.
Discussion.
This is grant funded?
Yeah, we'd like to fund it out of the rural aid fund, and I'll give you an update on that later. Now, that group wants less money than we offered them, so there's even more money there.
Okay, so I have a motion by Rich, a second by Bill. Any other discussion?
Are there candidates yet, or can you not yet do that until it's approved?
What happens is if hopefully it's approved tonight, I'll post it for 5 days. we'll see who the candidates are and then we'll.
Hopefully it's in time.
I guess to that point, I would just like to say I'm in support of this, but I would certainly, if it goes well, like to see it expand beyond writing and certainly come in much earlier than senior year. Because I think there's a lot of support that's required much earlier in the process that a lot of students aren't getting at this point. So if successful, I'd love to see it grow.
Did I hear, is it limited to senior years or?
No, I mean, I think in practice what'll happen is, and starting something mid-cycle is always hard, right?
Yeah.
Ideally, we'd be starting now with the 11th graders to get them ready for next year. But to leave Julian and his classmates hanging between now and
Julian's brilliant, he's gonna do fine.
But between now and January is unconscionable. So what I imagine happens is some work happens in the fall with current seniors and maybe a little work with juniors, but the bulk of the work with juniors happens in the spring, and then we get on a regular cycle.
Makes sense. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, Ann.
Aye.
Jason.
Aye.
Bonnie.
Aye.
Molly.
Aye.
Bill.
Yes.
Diane.
Yes.
Corey. Rich.
Aye.
And I, it's unanimous.
Okay, thank you very much on that. So the next three are the student family handbooks, and every year there's some people who read it like exhaustively, and I really appreciate you. And there's some other people who skim it. Let's start with Muddy Brook. Are there any comments or things anybody noticed that I missed or the principal and assistant principal missed?
I have a request, and I would like to be a standing request going forward on this, is could we get it, or maybe you can tell us now, but if you get an executive summary of changes? Like, because it's pretty much the same, it's substantially the same year to year.
Yeah, I mean,
And
this
you
one.
can't give it to me now, but like that would be, because I didn't read this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this one was a little interesting. So Katie came right at the beginning of the year last year, so she didn't have a chance to make her mark on the handbook. Can you share a couple highlights of things that changed?
I mean, we really didn't change anything substantial other than names and things. And maybe some little, changes.
Yeah.
The biggest change probably was just the bus drop off for fourth graders. So that we instituted that last year, and then we put it formally in the handbook this year. So that's really the biggest real change.
Great. Do we want to do them all at once? Is it easier?
As long as there's discussion goes like this, yeah.
Okay, good.
I thought you were gonna ask me what we ask every year, do we vote on this or
I
not?
think what Rich is, I'd like to see, any changes are, what do? They put it in yellow.
Right, okay. So
Yeah.
in the future, we could do that, though, as you shared before, you won't be here for it. But maybe
But I'll
we
be
could watch
All
along.
right.
No, there's a writing spot.
Yeah. Ben, any substantive changes?
I would say just the way we approach restorative practices, I think there's a good explanation. Miles did a nice job of revising that and explaining it. There's a bunch of other minor changes, but I don't think that those are significant pieces.
Okay, great. And then Christie, do you want to talk about any changes in yours? And I think the most obvious thing is that there's a handbook and now an accompanying procedures.
Correct, so I think ours probably had the most substantial changes, and I don't think it had been revised to this extent in many years, because Peter Bokowski had onboarded right before I came in as principal, then COVID. So this was really our first chance that the two of us went through this pretty thoroughly together. We've also had substantial change during that time around academic expectations, grading policies, incomplete homework test guidelines, so language in all of those sections. was modified and condensed to align to practice on the ground. Peter worked with the district attorney to go through language around policy to make sure that we had everything up to date and aligned. So all of those changes were made, and then we did pull out separately to try to make the documents more manageable and user-friendly. All of the actual procedures on the ground in terms of attendance procedures, the passes, early dismissals, those things are now in a separate procedures manual. And we will continue to refine this, but we're trying to make some headway.
Okay. So any questions or comments on any of the three?
I just have a question, Christie, on the grading system in the handbook.
Yep, and I'm trying to look on my phone because I apologize for my computer died while I was sitting here.
It's on page 15.
There's a hard copy.
It says Monument uses a numerical grading system to evaluate student performance. But that's being looked at differently for 9 and 10, right?
So our grade reporting system is still on a 0 to 100 scale. And part of the work we did this summer was to clearly define if students are receiving proficiency feedback. So a student is developing or proficient or excelling, those words are translating into the 0 to 100 scale the same way in all classes across 9 to 10, because the reporting on report cards and transcripts is still a 0 to 100 system. We have not changed that.
Okay. But that, no, that's not germane to it.
It's consistent with where we are today,
Okay, right.
but that section will almost certainly change going forward.
Anyone else? Do I have a motion to approve the 3 student family handbooks?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Rich, a second by Jason. Any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Ian.
Aye.
Jason.
Aye.
Bonnie.
Aye.
Wally.
Aye.
Bill.
Yes.
Diane.
Yes.
Cory.
Aye.
Rich.
Aye.
And I, it's unanimous.
Great. Okay, so a couple little things. I sent out an email today to parents about COVID testing going forward. All we're doing is symptomatic rapid tests if parents or families consent to it. All right, so if a kid is in school and they have a bunch of symptoms and they want to get tested and we have an active consent on file, the nurses will test that child. If we don't have a consent on file, we might give a child or student a test to take home, and they could do the test at home with their parent. And importantly, we're not doing pool testing now. In the near future, there'll be another round of likely vaccination clinics, both for COVID and the flu, or maybe even a combined one. Any questions about COVID? And the countywide numbers are pretty good, though people are still getting it. We had a really interesting meeting of the Regional School District Planning Board, and we offered our commitment of sharing up to $60,000 if Southern Berkshire did the same. There was probably an hour and a half discussion around that. And ultimately the vote was to not take our $60,000, but for each of the 8 towns and the 2 districts to be asked to contribute $15,000 for a total of $150,000. And actually Steve sort of broke the whatever log jam by proposing that and won quick support.
How did you convince the Great Barrington Select Board?
Select board may not approve it. We haven't done that.
Whatever, the regional school district planning board embraced that. So my assumption is based on your previous vote
I would rather we take a vote tonight to rescind the previous motion and accept this, because we don't know how Southern Berkshire is going to vote.
Yeah, okay.
And if they vote no on this, then we would be giving 0, and I think supporting the regional school district planning board.
Yeah, so you make the motion, do what you want to do.
Yeah.
So I don't know, we just said we would do it if they wanted it. Do you want me to rescind the authorization at the last meeting?
And yes, and then approve $15,000.
Okay, that's what I didn't understand that was.
Yeah.
But okay. I make a motion that we rescind the prior authorization regarding expenditure to the Regional School District Planning Committee and approve a expenditure of up to $15,000 for the Regional School District Planning Committee.
Second the motion. So I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion. A roll call. Ann,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Bonnie,
Aye.
Molly,
Aye.
Bill,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Cory,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
and I, it's unanimous.
Okay. We have a standing item for the MSBA process. I don't really have much to report. A few people have reached out about expressing an interest to be on the building committee.
Yeah, and that's still open. There's
It's
that,
still open, yeah.
and we would love to see more people.
Right.
Is there a date that this has to be finalized by? The makeup of the committee?
Yeah, give me just a sec
Okay, no,
to
that's-
look it up. I think maybe our next meeting or the meeting after.
I think it's a meeting after.
Yeah.
I know you've advertised, I saw it a couple
Yeah, I
places.
saw
But has it been blasted out to the parent square email so all parents get it?
I will do that next.
Right.
Yeah.
And not just high school, to the 2 other schools, obviously, now, like district-wide.
Yeah. In some ways, elementary and the middle school might even be more important.
And the whole process ends, I could go back to this, when's the process, this first stage have to be done by?
It's,
April 28th.
April 20th.
which is 270 days. We need to give them a approved building committee by September 30th. So I think we have 2 more meetings before then.
Okay. You have nothing else?
Oh, I'm sorry, we have one meeting on the 22nd, so we'll finalize it.
We have one meeting in September?
Well, today's September.
Oh, that's what it was,
That's
yeah.
one.
And then the 22nd is the other
Between
one.
Labor Day and the Jewish
You think-
holidays, and always,
Yeah.
they get spread apart.
So subcommittee reports.
That's it. Policy has not met, buildings and grounds,
Has not met.
superintendent's evaluation,
It's not that.
technology has not met, finance has not met. Personnel report, Peter, do you have?
Yeah, so a very lengthy personnel report, a lot of extracurricular appointments, coaching, a lot of sort of our teacher leadership, stipended roles, some stuff tied to Project Connection. In the section on page 3, the vacancies to be filled, we filled the math teacher at the middle school. And Christy and I just spoke, and I think the French teacher is taken care of too. So really, Katie, how many paraprofessional positions at the elementary school? 2? Are we trying to fill?
No, we're good.
We're good. Okay, so the only positions we're trying to fill then in the whole district are a custodian at the middle school, a custodian at the high school. And then how many pairs are you short?
At this point, everything goes right at 0.
Right, so that's pretty amazing. And if you're reading the national news about teacher and staff shortages, it's terrible. So we did very well.
Yeah. Thank you. Chairman, FY 21 single audit report.
The single audit It really is 22. But,
I just was reading the.
oh, no, it is 21. I'm already working in 24, so my years are confused. Single audit report every year, because of the amount of grant money we receive from the federal government, they pick one federal grant to do a deep dive. And in 21, it was the special education 240 IDEA grant. And Kate is responsible for that grant, and there are no findings. Happy to say that.
It was nice to see. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's a really big deal. I should have referenced this, and I'm sorry. In the written communication is the note from the 8-town board asking us to do what we already did, but you read it in the packet, so.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Okay, old or new business? Any public comment, just raise your hand. Seeing no public comment. Unanimous consent, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks. Have a good night.